Okay, so Big Beautiful Bill came out. What changed? A couple things. The first thing is expanded eligibility. So when we think about people on the Affordable Care Act plans, whether that's gold or silver or bronze, right? There's different levels of care and coverage and then cost, right? So you can kind of think gold might be a little bit more coverage, a little more expensive, and then bronze and catastrophic down here are potentially cheaper, less coverage, right? So you kind of get the idea. But now, starting in 2026, individuals on the bronze and the catastrophic plan can now contribute to HSAs. So that's about 7.3 million people that now can add to an HSA and arguably probably the ones that really want to add to an HSA because they're having a most likely higher deductible. So really, really great for them.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that was surprising because, yeah, if you're talking about somebody on marketplace coverage like a bronze or catastrophic plan, those are the people that probably need a healthcare savings account the most because, that their deductibles are typically going to be a bit higher. I mean, a catastrophic plan can be
Mm-hmm.
quite high. I think previously an HSA was withheld because, they were trying to incentivize people away from buying coverage that is so bare. But I would see this as a reaction to just rising cost of healthcare and realizing that we just have to put tools in people's hands and not try to incentivize them one way or the other.
Yeah, there's nothing to me that says freedom than a retiree or any individual, but a retiree who has a really big HSA starting
Mm,
in retirement.
yeah, yeah. Along the same lines, or kind of the same spirit, direct primary care compatibility. So, direct primary care. This is when you go to a clinic, oftentimes outside of insurance, and you say, "Hey, I would like, kind of in the name direct primary care, I would like to pay you for healthcare services." And this is sometimes in supplement, sometimes in lieu of, kind of standard interaction with the healthcare system. So, previously, these actually had to come out of pocket. Actually, for instance, some of the clinics that we've been engaging with recently have DPC contracts, but these could actually be tricky with health savings accounts. They won't be tricky come 2026. You can effectively pay for your primary care subscription via your HSA. This is separate from insurance coverage, right? That's an entirely different conversation, but you can at least use the tax advantages of an HSA on direct primary care service subscriptions starting in 2026.
Right. And isn't there a dollar limit of 150, 300?
Yes, yes, that's right. 150 a month for individuals, 300 a month for families. So yes, there are still some limitations on it. You can't. I'm not sure what bougie DPC would charge you 1,000 a month, but if that's the case, you're going to have to take some of that out of pocket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If that's your
Um,
case, you can ask us for a great referral. We're really into this stuff.
yeah, it's true that a couple other things that changed, relatively small things, but previously a high deductible health plan couldn't offer telehealth coverage ahead of the deductible, right? So a lot of times these are 3,000, 4,000, $10,000 deductibles, and they couldn't give you any telehealth coverage before that deductible and still maintain, their status as a high deductible health plan that is HSA eligible. That's changing. To me, that's just common sense. Like it's allowing telehealth, which just makes healthcare delivery a lot more convenient, more accessible, and kind of like unhandcuffs these plans from being able to offer them for people as opposed to, them possibly ending up in urgent care or the emergency room, which aren't bad things, but if you could solve it via telehealth, why not?
Absolutely. Another thing, limits went up. So this is always something to keep an eye on, especially in planning. Did the Roth IRA limit go up? Did the, 401k limit go up? Did the HSA limit go up? For single contributors, it went up $100. For families, it went up $200. So 4,400 for single and then 8,754 for families. So just keep an eye on those limit increases. Also, there's $1,000 catch up for 55 and older. So this is something, yeah, especially in pre-retirement planning years, you always want to be aware of catch up. So, yep, $1,000 for people over 55. You can
Yeah.
add.
Yep. Okay, so what didn't change? This is actually so some things did change, and that's great. I mean, I think the general trend for HSAs is that they're becoming more open, more accessible, more usable. But there were, if you were following this at all earlier in the summer and in the spring of 2025, there were some pretty big things that were talked about. that some of these things even passed through the House, but they didn't make it into the final bill. So this is the wet blanket part, but there's some things that we actually thought would be really cool that didn't come to fruition. So we'll just mention those things because just because they didn't make it this time doesn't mean they won't make it next time. There's an adaptation to health savings accounts. So things that didn't change, Medicare enrollees are still barred from contribution. So if you are enrolled in Medicare, you could not contribute to an HSA previously, and you still cannot contribute to an HSA, which, it wouldn't make sense for every retiree on Medicare, but it's a bummer to have that cap put on you. So really your contribution years are before you enroll in Medicare, and then at least in current law, that's a hard stop.
Could you just describe the difference, what I was talking about with the gold, silver, you're right, and now those plans being able to add to an HSA versus what you're saying?
Yeah, so ACA marketplace coverage, that is typically going to be people who are pre-Medicare, right? So you don't have coverage through your employer, you're maybe self-employed, or for whatever reason, maybe your employer even guided you to the individual marketplace. Those plans now are very wide open to HSAs as long as it's a high deductible health plan. However, when you age into Medicare, that's going to be an entirely different healthcare system. So, you've got Medicare Part A, Part B, C, and D. And even if you're just in Part A only, that's still going to disqualify you from contributing. Although it does not disqualify you from using an HSA. That's an important distinction. If you're in retirement
Super
and you've got
helpful.
an HSA, use it
Super helpful.
within your financial plan.
Yeah. Or potentially let it be invested. It depends. No advice.
Yep. Also, no doubling of contribution limits. I'm not sure how serious this one was. I wasn't following this one specifically through the House and Senate, but there was an ambitious proposal in the House to double the contribution limit. So, I mean, it's interesting to think about it, and we might start to adapt some planning strategies if the contribution limit jumped from 8,550 to over 17,000 for a family. That's where a triple tax advantage bucket, like that starts to shift in the modeling. So that was really intriguing as it was going through, and for people that could take advantage of it, yeah, I mean, that's a $17,000 deduction, tax-free growth, tax-free use on medical expenses in the future on an account that's generally becoming more permissive with time, but it didn't happen. So,
I would have loved that.
yep. Yep. So nothing there. We'll keep an eye on it. Maybe in a few years it comes back around, as these things often do. No spousal catch-up contribution. Oh, this one's so complicated. Basically, there's a headache for spouses over 55. If you're married and you're trying to use that $1,000 catch-up provision that Allison was talking about, effectively you can't have both spouses add to one HSA. It's super ticky-tacky, and for some reason they didn't get rid of this like glitch. So you need to have separate HSAs if you both want to leverage the spousal catch-up. Neither here nor there. Okay, and then the last one, there was conversation about really aggressively expanding the definition of medical necessity, even dropping it to some degree. So there was talk and a hope to make prevention and wellness just kind of open range for HSA spending. I can't maybe comment on the specifics of why it got dropped. I can imagine that allowing the triple tax advantage to go into things that maybe are starting to get pretty out there in terms of their actual contribution to your health. I could see why it might not be a good idea to just like blow the doors open, but for people that are interested in saunas and cold tubs and taking care of their health, it would be nice if it was a bit easier to use the account on that.
Yes. Yes. What's that website we love? TrueMed?
Yeah, TrueMed. So yeah, right now you need to prove a degree of medical necessity in order to use your HSA, which is possible for health and prevention or wellness and prevention products and services. But it just means you have to be mindful, and you often have to step through a degree of process to make sure that you're documenting it correctly. Otherwise, you could get that tax advantage clawed back from you if the IRS were to audit you and say that your use of the HSA was not within the realm of medical necessity.